Sushant, Sreen, the problem with some of these measures is they may provide temporary relief, but let's assume you're in a camp for 10, 15, 20, 30 days. When you go back, you're still vulnerable. Yeah. So it's not as if getting temporary succor is any long-term solution.
That's correct, and which is why, and I think my friend Sushil made a very valid point, that numbers are only one metric. It's not the sole metric to judge whether a situation has become normal or not. And in fact, politicians might bandy about numbers, but the security forces in Kashmir have a list of at least 24 metrics on the basis of which they decide whether the situation in a particular area is normal or not normal. And by those metrics, very clearly, it is not a very normal situation, particularly in South Kashmir. In North Kashmir, things are relatively stable, but in South Kashmir, they are not. And yet, if you have an administration and a government, as Siddharth is saying, which pushes these people, exploits their desperation, so it's now, the terrorists using their desperation to have jobs and livelihoods to butcher them, and a government having the insensitivity of pushing these people, using them as lambs for the slaughter, sending them into remote areas without giving them adequate security, simply because you hold them by their curlies and you are saying that either you lose your job or you lose your life.
So Shaina, part of this is because the government wanted to declare victory. You wanted to show Sab Changa CG, there's a new Naya Kashmir emerging, and therefore you prematurely declared victory. You wanted to say that so many Kashmiri Muslim Pandits and Hindus have gone and settled in different parts of the valley, and that's the message you wanted to communicate without going in for the killer blow, without solving the problem once and forever, wanting to declare victory and wanting to show some result at the end of the revocation of 35A and 370.
No, Rahul, this is not about victory and defeat. This is not about we did it and you didn't. This is a pushback which is coming from terror outfits, and we know that these kind of tactics are all new in the game, using locals, using the youth, trying to destabilize an already development-friendly, progressive atmosphere by hitting out at government officials is part of their throwback. But that does not mean we are going to leave it here. This is an ongoing process. Now, post 370, was the transition seamless? Did we not see a drop in all kinds of terror activities? Did we not see Kashmir and Jammu come into the mainstream with jobs created, tourism coming back, people interested in land and all kinds of activities? I think that we are not here to tom-tom about what the Honorable Prime Minister and Home Minister have done. If there are lacunas in the system, if there are pistols and new techniques being used by people who are being misled, then we need to deal with that too, and we will. Our security agencies are on the job 24/7. I'm sure national television is not just the only place where these things are discussed. There are high-level meetings the Honorable Home Minister had, as we know, and there are all stakeholders taken into consideration. So let's not just view this objectively to suggest that, this has happened and this is the end of the road. It isn't. It's obviously very it's sorrowful for any Indian to lose life, be it a pharmacist, a school teacher, a theatre actress, or anybody else, for that matter, whether they're known, not known, whether they're Kashmiri Pandit or even Muslim, is not the question.
At this moment, we have a very immediate challenge where there are hundreds of people, if not thousands, who are feeling vulnerable, and the government needs to come out with solutions to provide them safety and security. Those can't be temporary, let's lock them up in a district headquarters or pack them off to Jammu, because that won't really solve the problem. We'll track this story very, very closely. As General Hasnain said, India is now in this new phase of hybrid terrorism that we're dealing with in Kashmir. It requires a different response to what we've had so far. You're not now chasing boys with guns in the valley, in the forest. You're now dealing with these locals who melt back into the population, a much bigger challenge in terms of trying to neutralize them.